Well, hello, and thank you for watching this video on an emerging trend in education that I believe will change how teachers engage with the students in their classroom. My name is Eric West, and I'm excited to share this presentation with you. If you're a teacher, a student, or a parent who is paying attention, you will know that education is changing. And as the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, sometimes things need to break before change can happen. And that's where this presentation begins. So here's the problem. I call it the epidemic of disengagement. We are living in a culture where entertainment, social media, and the ability to interact with one's interests is at our fingertips. You can connect with people across the world from your home. You can learn about just about anything, how to do just about anything without stepping foot in a classroom. You can connect with your friends from your bedside. You can attend school and church without actually going to school and church, and watch your favorite show on your phone from anywhere. So we have all this access to all this great content. And what is happening is it's training our young people to not engage with things that they feel are not as entertaining or interesting. Or to put it bluntly, our students are not paying attention to teachers who are boring. And so our students are falling behind in their education. They're disengaging. Teachers are frustrated. Families don't know what to do differently. Shelley Wright is an educator. She has spent many years teaching kids in high school age. Here is her link to her site, and she writes a really informative and truthful blog about top issues in education. And I feel that her voice on this issue represents a lot of voices. She writes, and I quote, "Whenever I hear of student engagement, I wonder what the problem really is. I don't buy into the idea that most of our students are lazy or incompetent. Instead, I think they're bored. Every student I've taught could learn, just often not the same thing or in the same way. But when I've asked students about it, I've always found that they love to learn. They just don't always love going to school." Research shows that the majority of our students are not engaged in their day-to-day learning. Depending on the survey, anywhere from 50 to almost 70% of our grade 10, 11, and 12 students are not engaged in their learning. And that's shocking, she says. End quote. I don't believe I need to show a ton of research here to validate that this need exists. You just simply need to visit a classroom or talk to a student and see how much energy teachers are putting out to keep kids engaged. Also, I don't think it's helpful just to tell teachers to be less boring. It's not just about cracking jokes. I think what is needed here is different and better resources, and also a shift in the paradigm and pedagogy in which teachers teach. But remember, this presentation is not about offering a solution. It's actually not about presenting a problem either. This presentation is meant to communicate an emerging trend in technology and education. And the problem and the solution used as an example here is to give the person watching this video a context as to why I think virtual reality or augmented reality will be a major trend in education in the next few years. So let's switch topics for a moment here. I remember when virtual reality was limited to theme parks like Disneyland and high-end entertainment companies. But as technology progresses, technologies also become more accessible. So let me introduce you to Spark from NYC Media Labs. Spark is a platform that allows teachers to upload and download interactive STEM lessons that the students can interact with through virtual reality in the context of community. Now take a look at that last sentence. I'm so excited about that. Let me show you how Joe Chung and NYC Media Labs explain this new amazing resource that I think will be a trend for future education. Let's take a look at their 1-minute video. It's just a piece of their launch presentation last year in 2018. Here it is here.
And this is what he typically uses to prepare for photosynthesis. Lesson plans, diagrams, way too much information. But with Spark, this is what he does. He logs into the app. He looks for lesson plans that lots of biology teachers have uploaded. He downloads all these resources, and then this is where the magic happens. He customizes this with augmented reality, voice, and tangible interactions so that his students can have a very enriching interactive experience in the classroom. And once he's happy with all this, what he's done, he prepares the Spark worksheet. He prints out a Spark worksheet. And it will look something like this. So there's tangibles, and there's also a worksheet full of white space. And we have Rory, who's one of his students. So during the next day in biology class, he pulls out his app, and he enters in Akira's lesson code. And then after that, together with his set of tangibles and the worksheet that Akira has given him, he proceeds to embark on a multi-sensory, hands-on experience with his classmates, encouraging collaboration.
So think about it. What are our students really good at? Parents, teachers, what are they good at? Well, I think the obvious answer is technology. And to say it more specifically, our preteens and teenagers are experts at integrating technology into their everyday lives. NYC Media Lab, these guys think that educators should use this strength to their advantage. Virtual reality is a platform that mimics real-life interaction. So instead of students learning about photosynthesis from graphs and pictures and lectures, they can play a video game where the same principles are taught, but the students can interact with the process. This type of learning is fun, it's informative, and it's communal. What are education experts saying about VR in the classroom? Jeremy Balianson, a professor of communications at Stanford University and founding director of Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab, has been studying VR since the late 1990s. He believes that VR should supplement classroom learning, not replace it. It's about using VR to shake it up and frame the other work being done in the regular classroom. It's about stepping away from the mundane stuff and experiencing something, he says. Stephen Sato is often asked, what value does VR bring to education? And he often replies, listen to this, equity. He says, for example, in your situation, which includes cost and proximity, you have easy access to the zoo. Let's assume you have easy access to the zoo. In this case, a virtual field trip might not be worthy case for VR. Instead, you can physically take a field trip. But generally speaking, access to the zoo falls largely into the category of funding. If a school felt there was value in taking students to a zoo and money was no object, they could simply fly their class to the zoo. If research that Reardon conducted is true, then this lack of funding results in a lack of experiences for students and would likely translate into a lower test scores within that school. Well, VR levels the playing field, giving lower income schools and students access to more and different types of learning. Virtual reality and augmented reality are new technologies which have been making all kinds of waves recently. But they're not just going to be used for gaming. Listen to this. Several companies are exploring applications for VR and AR to be used in education. Around 90% of what we see and do is retained, which is something that has always been missing from education. So here is a bit of research. These are the top gaming companies that are currently researching educational VR technology. This list is a small selection of just the top companies. And please know that this list was compiled in 2016, 3 years ago. So in conclusion, I think that VR is going to be a huge deal in the classroom going forward. I think this is a trend that we can see will enter the classroom because of the one-on-one ratio that most schools are moving towards with Chromebooks and iPads, and also the accessibility to this wonderful, wonderful platform. It's not only going to get more dense and more driven by information, it's also going to get cheaper. Here are my references, and thank you so much for watching my presentation.